Most people are secretly planning to fail, though they'd never admit it. They create backup plans, prepare excuses, and mentally rehearse their explanations for why things didn't work out. They treat failure not just as a possibility, but as an inevitability, setting themselves up for mediocrity from the start. I've seen this pattern destroy more potential, waste more talent, and crush more dreams than any external obstacle ever could. The harsh truth is that your careful contingency planning isn't prudence. It's permission to quit when challenges arise. Your thoughtful backup strategies aren't wisdom. They're escape routes that guarantee you'll never push through to extraordinary achievement. This preparation for failure becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that ensures you'll never discover what you're truly capable of achieving. Success starts with a simple decision. The moment you decide failure is not an option, everything changes. Your mind works differently. Your actions become more focused. Your results improve dramatically. I've spent over 40 years studying successful people. I've interviewed thousands of high achievers across industries. I've read countless books on achievement, and I've found one common thread that runs through every great success story: an absolute commitment to reaching the goal. No matter what obstacles appear, think about this. The most successful people aren't always the most talented. They aren't always the most intelligent. They don't always have the most resources or the best connections. But they all share one critical quality. They refuse to accept failure as a possibility. Let me tell you about a client I worked with years ago. He started a small business with just $1, 0 cents in savings. His competitors were big companies with millions in funding. His friends told him he was crazy. His family worried he would lose everything. But he made a decision that shaped everything that followed. He decided failure simply wasn't an option within 3 years. His company grew to over $10 million, 0 cents in annual revenue. And when I asked him the secret to his success, his answer was simple. I never gave myself an exit strategy. I had to make it work because there was no other choice. This isn't just one isolated example. History is filled with stories of ordinary people who accomplished extraordinary things because they eliminated the possibility of failure from their thinking. Thomas Edison tried over 10 different materials before finding the right filament for the electric light bulb. When a reporter asked how it felt to fail 10 times, Edison replied, "I didn't fail 10 times. The light bulb was an invention with 10 steps." Colonel Sanders was rejected 1.009 times before someone finally accepted his chicken recipe. At age 65, when most people are retiring, he was just getting started. He refused to quit because in his mind, failure wasn't an option. J.K. Rowling was a single mother on welfare when she wrote the first Harry Potter book. It was rejected by 12 publishers before someone took a chance on it. Today, she's one of the most successful authors in history. Why? Because she kept going when others would have given up. What these stories tell us is profound. Success doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It depends on perfect commitment. When you eliminate the possibility of failure from your thinking, your brain starts working differently. This isn't just motivation talk, this is science. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system, or RAS. It filters information and brings to your attention what you focus on most. When you decide failure isn't an option, your RAS begins scanning your environment for opportunities, resources, and solutions that will help you succeed. Opportunities that were always there suddenly become visible. Think about buying a new car. Once you decide on a certain model, you start seeing that same car everywhere. Those cars were always there, but now your brain notices them because you've programmed it to pay attention. The same thing happens with success. When you commit completely to a goal, you start noticing resources and opportunities that were invisible to you before. But there's something even more powerful that happens when you adopt this mindset. When failure isn't an option, you stop wasting energy on contingency plans. Every ounce of your mental and physical resources goes toward making your primary goal happen. Most people dilute their efforts by creating backup plans. They tell themselves, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to my old job. Or if this business fails, I have other options. That kind of thinking sounds reasonable, but it actually reduces your chances of success. Why? Because it divides your focus and weakens your resolve. It gives you permission to quit when things get difficult. And make no mistake, things will get difficult. Every worthwhile goal comes with challenges. The question isn't whether you'll face obstacles, it's how you'll respond when they appear. When failure isn't an option, obstacles become temporary roadblocks rather than dead ends. You don't ask, should I continue? You ask, how can I overcome this challenge? I remember talking with an Olympic athlete who trained for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week for 4 years straight. I asked her how she maintained such incredible discipline. She said, I never decided whether to train each day. I decided once, 4 years ago, that I would become an Olympic champion. After that, daily training wasn't a choice. It was simply what had to happen. That's the power of eliminating options. When you remove the possibility of failure, your daily decisions become simpler. Your path becomes clearer. Your commitment becomes stronger. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never experience setbacks. It doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes or face disappointments. But it does mean you'll never see these challenges as reasons to quit. Instead, you'll see them as valuable feedback that helps you adjust your approach. Every failure contains information that can help you succeed. Edison understood this. He famously said, I have not failed, I've just found 10 ways that won't work. Each attempt taught him something valuable that brought him closer to his goal. When you act like failure isn't an option, you transform obstacles into stepping stones. You convert problems into opportunities. You turn setbacks into comebacks. This mindset isn't just powerful, it's essential. In today's fast-changing world, challenges come at us from every direction. Markets shift overnight. Technologies disrupt entire industries. Competition grows more intense every day. The only way to thrive in this environment is to develop unwavering commitment to your goals. Think about the most successful companies of our time. Apple, Amazon, Tesla. What do they have in common? Leaders who refuse to accept failure as an option. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was 90 days from bankruptcy. He didn't create a backup plan. He created revolutionary products that changed the world. Every limitation begins in the mind. Before any physical barrier stops you, you face mental barriers that tell you what's possible or impossible. These invisible walls are more powerful than any real obstacle you'll ever face. The truth is simple but profound. What you believe determines what you achieve. Your mind sets the boundaries of your accomplishment. And when you decide failure isn't an option, you immediately expand those boundaries. Let me share something I've observed after decades of studying success. The difference between average performers and extraordinary achievers isn't talent or resources. It's their relationship with mental barriers. Average people accept limitations. High achievers question them. The most successful people ignore them completely. Mental barriers show up as thoughts like, that's too difficult. I don't have enough experience. Or, no one from my background has ever done that. These thoughts seem reasonable. They even sound protective. But they're actually prison walls, keeping you from your potential. These limiting beliefs might have started in childhood. Perhaps a teacher told you weren't good at math. Maybe a parent suggested you weren't athletic. Or possibly early failures convinced you that certain achievements weren't meant for you. These messages embed themselves in your subconscious mind, where they influence your actions without your awareness. The good news, you can reprogram these beliefs. When you act like failure isn't an option, you begin the process of breaking through mental barriers that have held you back for years. I worked with a business owner who believed her company couldn't grow beyond $5 million, 0 cents in annual revenue. Every time sales approached that number, problems would emerge. Cash flow issues, staff conflicts, customer complaints. It was as if an invisible force field existed at the $5 million 0 cents mark. After some discussion, we discovered the root cause. Her father had owned a business that failed after growing too quickly. She had unconsciously absorbed the belief that rapid growth was dangerous. Once she identified this limiting belief, she could challenge it. Within 18 months, her company passed $10 million, 0 cents in revenue, with fewer problems than before. Your mind operates based on the instructions you give it. When you tell yourself something is impossible, your brain accepts that instruction and stops looking for solutions. But when you decide failure isn't an option, your brain receives new instructions. Find a way no matter what. The technique I recommend for breaking through mental barriers starts with awareness. Pay attention to your self-talk, the ongoing conversation you have with yourself throughout the day. When you catch yourself thinking limiting thoughts, challenge them immediately. Replace "I can't" with "how can I?" Turn "that's impossible" into "that's challenging, but I'll figure it out." Transform "I've never done that before" into "this is my opportunity to learn something new." This isn't just positive thinking, it's strategic thinking. It shifts your mind from focusing on problems to searching for solutions. It moves you from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And that shift changes everything. Consider Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile barrier in 1954. For years, medical experts claimed running a mile in under 4 minutes was physically impossible. They said the human heart would explode from the effort, but Bannister didn't accept these limitations. He trained differently. He thought differently. And he accomplished what experts said couldn't be done. This was fascinating. Within just 46 days of Bannister breaking the record, someone else ran a sub 4-minute mile. Within 3 years, 16 other runners had done it. The barrier wasn't physical, it was psychological. Once someone proved it was possible, others could achieve it too. The same principle applies to every goal you set. Whatever mental barriers exist, someone has already broken through them. Whatever seems impossible today will seem normal tomorrow, once you decide failure isn't an option. Another powerful technique for breaking mental barriers is visualization. Your subconscious mind can't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you regularly visualize success, you program your mind to recognize and pursue opportunities that lead to that outcome. Olympic athletes use this technique religiously. They don't just physically practice their sport, they mentally rehearse perfect performance. They see themselves executing flawlessly. They feel the emotions of victory. They hear the crowd cheering. This mental practice creates neural pathways that support actual performance. You can apply this same technique to any goal. Spend 10 minutes each morning visualizing yourself succeeding. See yourself overcoming obstacles. Feel the satisfaction of achievement. Make the mental movie as detailed as possible. when I coach executives. I have them create what I call a future autobiography. They write a detailed description of their life 5 years in the future, assuming all their goals have been achieved. They include specific details about their business, health, relationships, and personal growth. This exercise forces them to clarify what they want and begins programming their subconscious mind to pursue it, along with visualization. Affirmations can help reprogram limiting beliefs. These are positive statements you repeat regularly until they become your new mental operating system. The most effective affirmations are personal, positive, present tense, and emotion-based. Instead of saying, I hope to increase sales, say, I am confidently building my business to $10 million, 0 cents in annual revenue. Instead of I want to lose weight, say, I am creating vibrant health through excellent nutrition and regular exercise. Repeat these affirmations morning and evening with emotion and conviction. Write them down. Record them and listen to them during your commute. The repetition gradually replaces old limiting beliefs with new empowering ones. Remember, your subconscious mind accepts whatever you tell it repeatedly. If you constantly think about failure, you program yourself to notice opportunities to fail. When you consistently affirm success and act like failure isn't an option, you program yourself to recognize paths to achievement. Another mental barrier that stops many people is comparison thinking. They look at successful people and focus on all the advantages those people have that they lack. She has more education. He started with more money. They have better connections. This thinking creates artificial barriers. It gives you reasons to accept mediocrity. When you decide failure isn't an option, you stop making excuses based on what you lack. Instead, you focus on maximizing what you have. Every successful person faced disadvantages. Every achievement came despite obstacles. The difference is that high achievers refuse to let disadvantages define their possibilities. I often tell my audiences about a study of self-made millionaires. Researchers expected to find advantages that explain their success. Instead, they found that 80% grew up in poverty or lower middle class homes. Over 60% experienced significant hardship in childhood. More than half had limited formal education. These people didn't succeed because circumstances favored them. They succeeded because they refused to let circumstances determine their outcomes. They acted like failure wasn't an option, and that mindset carried them past barriers that stop most people. The mental barriers you face today are not facts. They're interpretations. They're stories you've accepted about what's possible for you. When you decide failure isn't an option, you begin writing a new story, one where determination overcomes all obstacles and persistence guarantees success. Motivation without method leads nowhere. Deciding failure isn't an option is powerful, but it must be followed by strategic action. The most successful people don't just want more, they plan more carefully than others. Strategic action planning transforms your commitment into consistent progress. It converts your determination into daily advancement. When failure isn't an option, planning becomes your pathway to inevitable success. Let me share the planning method that has helped thousands of my clients achieve extraordinary results. It starts with absolute clarity about what you want. Vague goals produce vague results. Precise targets lead to precise achievements. Write down your goal in specific, measurable terms. Don't say, I want to be successful. Say, I will generate $250, 0 cents in annual income by December 31st. Don't say, I want to get in shape. Say, I will reach my ideal weight of 170 pounds by June 1st. This specificity does something remarkable to your mind. It transforms abstract desires into concrete targets. It gives your brain clear instructions about what to pursue. When you define exactly what you want, your subconscious mind starts working 24 hours a day to help you achieve it. Once you've defined your target clearly, use backward planning to create your strategy. Most people plan forward from where they are today. Successful people plan backward from their desired result. Ask yourself, what needs to happen immediately before I achieve this goal? Then ask, what needs to happen before that and before that? Continue this process until you reach actions you can take today. For example, if your goal is $250.00 in annual income, you might determine that you need 25 clients paying $10.00 each to get 25 clients. You might need to make 250 proposals, assuming a 10% closing rate to make 250 proposals. You need 1 qualified prospects. You need to connect with 5 potential customers. Now you have a clear action plan. Connect with 5 potential customers to achieve your income goal. Break this down further into weekly and daily actions. If you have 250 working days per year, you need to connect with 20 potential customers each day. This backward planning approach eliminates confusion and guesswork. It creates a direct line between today's actions and tomorrow's results. When failure isn't an option, this clarity becomes your roadmap to success. The next step is establishing daily disciplines. These are the non-negotiable actions you commit to performing every day, regardless of mood or circumstance. They're the activities that move you steadily toward your goal. Identify the 3 to 5 high leverage activities that will have the greatest impact on your progress. Focus at least 80% of your productive time on these few critical tasks. For most goals, you'll find that a small number of activities produce the majority of your results. In sales, for example, the high leverage activity is usually direct contact with qualified prospects. In fitness, it might be cardiovascular exercise and proper nutrition. In writing, it's actual writing time, not research, planning, or editing. When you've identified these high leverage activities, schedule them first in your day. Don't check email, answer calls, or attend meetings until you've completed your most important tasks. This front-legging approach ensures that what matters most never gets sacrificed to what matters least. Many people fail to achieve their goals not because they lack ability, but because they allow distractions to consume their time. They spend hours on activities that feel productive, but don't move them closer to their objectives. Conduct a time audit to identify these time wasters. Track how you spend every 30-minute block for a full week. Then review your log and ask, does this activity directly contribute to my most important goal? If not, eliminate it, delegate it, or drastically reduce the time you spend on it. When failure isn't an option, you become ruthless about protecting your time. You recognize that every minute spent on low-value activities is a minute taken away from high-value pursuits. You understand that time is the one resource you can never recover once it's spent. The final element of strategic action planning is measurement. Track your progress daily. Measure both your activities, what you do, and your results, what you achieve. This creates a feedback loop that allows you to adjust your approach when necessary if you're not getting the results you want. Don't change your goal, change your method. Analyze what's working and what isn't. Double down on effective strategies, abandon or modify ineffective ones. When failure isn't an option, setbacks become valuable data points that inform your next move. Remember, what gets measured gets improved. The simple act of tracking your progress increases your likelihood of success. It keeps you focused on your goal and provides immediate feedback on your performance. Strategic action planning isn't complicated, but it requires discipline. It demands that you think carefully about what you want. Plan thoroughly for how to get it. Focus consistently on high-leverage activities. Eliminate distractions ruthlessly, and measure your progress honestly. When you combine absolute commitment with strategic planning, you create unstoppable momentum. You transform failure isn't an option from a motivational slogan into a practical reality. Every worthwhile goal will test your commitment. Obstacles will appear. Setbacks will occur. Unexpected challenges will emerge. These moments of adversity aren't exceptions to the success journey. They're essential parts of it. When you act like failure isn't an option, you approach these difficulties differently. You see them not as signals to retreat, but as opportunities to grow stronger. Resilience becomes your competitive advantage in a world where most people quit at the first sign of resistance. Well, the key to building resilience starts with how you frame obstacles. Most people see problems as punishments or bad luck. Successful people see them as growth opportunities. They understand that strength develops through resistance, just as muscles grow stronger when they meet resistance in the gym. I've interviewed hundreds of highly successful individuals across industries. Almost without exception, they point to specific challenges that transformed them. They don't succeed despite difficulties. They succeed because difficulties forced them to develop capabilities they wouldn't have discovered otherwise. Consider Thomas Edison's response when his laboratory burned down, destroying years of work the next morning. At age 67, he said, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." Within 3 weeks, he had established a temporary laboratory. Within a year, he delivered his first phonograph. This perspective shift changes everything. When problems arise, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this challenge make me stronger? What opportunity might be hidden within this setback? This reframing process doesn't deny reality. It transforms your relationship with reality. It moves you from victim to creator, from passenger to driver. Another essential aspect of resilience is emotional management. Setbacks trigger emotional responses, frustration, disappointment, anger, even fear. These emotions are natural, but successful people don't let them dictate their actions. The technique I recommend is the 24-hour rule. When you face a significant setback, give yourself 24 hours to feel whatever emotions arise. Don't suppress them or pretend they don't exist. Experience them fully, but only for 24 hours. After that, redirect your emotional energy toward solutions. This time-limited approach acknowledges your humanity while preventing emotional reactions from derailing your progress. It creates a healthy balance between feeling and doing. So persistence is another critical component of resilience. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. They give up too quickly when results don't come as fast as they expected. When you act like failure isn't an option, you commit to persistent action regardless of immediate results. You understand that success is rarely linear. It usually follows what I call the success curve, a long period of effort with minimal visible results, followed by a sudden breakthrough that appears to others as an overnight success. Most people quit during the flat part of the curve just before the breakthrough would have occurred. They interpret lack of immediate results as evidence that their efforts are futile. Those who persist through this plateau period eventually reach the steep upward curve, where progress accelerates dramatically. The final element in building resilience is creating strong support systems. No one succeeds entirely alone. When you decide failure isn't an option, you strategically surround yourself with people who strengthen your resolve rather than weaken it. Identify the 5 people you spend the most time with and ask yourself, do these relationships make me stronger or weaker? Do these people raise my standards or lower them? Do they remind me of my capability or reinforce my limitations? Create what I call a personal board of directors, a small group of individuals who believe in your potential, speak truth to you when needed, and refuse to let you settle for less than you're capable of achieving. Meet with them regularly for feedback, accountability, and encouragement when failure isn't an option. Building resilience becomes a daily practice. You reframe obstacles as opportunities. You manage emotions without being managed by them. You persist through plateaus. And you create relationships that strengthen your commitment through this process. Adversity stops being something you merely survive. It becomes the very thing that makes your ultimate success inevitable. Your life changes the moment you stop accepting what is and start pursuing what could be. When you act like failure isn't an option, you set in motion forces that transform not just your results, but your identity. Breakthrough success becomes inevitable. Let me tell you about Michael, a client who came to me at a critical turning point. For 10 years, he had operated a small consulting firm that generated just enough income to support his family. He worked long hours, constantly chased new clients, and felt perpetually exhausted. Despite his efforts, the business remained stuck. During our first meeting, I asked him a simple question. What would happen if you decided failure wasn't an option? What if success at a much higher level was absolutely guaranteed? How would you approach your business differently? His answer revealed everything. I'd stop taking any client willing to pay me. I'd focus exclusively on the healthcare industry, where I have specialized knowledge. I'd create standardized solutions instead of custom work for each client. And I'd hire team members rather than doing everything myself. Why aren't you doing those things now? I asked. Because they might not work, he replied. And then what would I do? This fear of failure was keeping him small. It was forcing him to play defense instead of offense. It was causing him to focus on avoiding disaster rather than creating excellence. Over the next 6 months, Michael implemented exactly the changes he had described. He narrowed his focus to healthcare clients. He created standardized consulting packages. He hired 3 team members to handle operations while he focused on business development. The results were remarkable. Within 1 year, his revenue tripled, his working hours decreased by 40%, his stress levels plummeted, while his satisfaction soared. By acting as if failure wasn't an option, he created breakthrough success. This pattern repeats across industries and endeavors. Breakthrough success comes when you shift from avoiding failure to pursuing excellence without reservation. It happens when you move from incremental thinking to exponential thinking. Most people improve gradually, seeking small advances over their current situation. Leaders who achieve breakthrough success think differently. They establish standards far beyond their current performance and work backward to reach them. They understand that small changes produce small results. Dramatic improvements require fundamental shifts in strategy and execution. When you act like failure isn't an option, you're willing to make these dramatic shifts. Now, our final key to breakthrough success is living with purpose beyond yourself. The most successful people connect their work to something larger than personal gain. They see themselves as serving others, solving important problems, or creating meaningful value. This purpose-driven approach creates sustainable motivation. It carries you through difficulties that would stop someone working only for money or status. It attracts supporters, partners, and opportunities aligned with your mission. Think about the truly great achievers in any field. They're driven by purpose, they're committed to excellence, they refuse to accept failure as an outcome, and they achieve results that others consider impossible. You have this same capacity. Within you lies potential for achievement far beyond what you've experienced so far. When you decide, truly decide, that failure isn't an option, you tap into this potential. You set yourself on a path to breakthrough success that will astonish everyone except those who understand this fundamental truth. Commitment precedes achievement. Always. The decision is yours. Right now, today. Will you continue allowing the possibility of failure to limit your actions, or will you step fully into your capability by acting as if success is guaranteed? Choose commitment. Choose excellence. Choose to act like failure isn't an option. And watch as your life transforms through the power of that single decision.